Hi, my name is Thomas Cunningham, and today I want to talk to you about long-term effects of entering the labor market in a recession. Swanson and von Wachter point to the fact that studies have just observed the effects and impacts of college graduates entering the labor market during a recession. Therefore, one goal was to pay distinct devotion to less advantaged workers in the study. The authors hypothesize that the effects of labor market entry during a recession will be more pronounced and last longer for these groups because of their marginalized status. Younger workers are particularly vulnerable to the adverse circumstances in the labor market. For example, it is well known that young workers bear the brunt of recessions in terms of higher unemployment rate, partly due to the wages tend to fall for most of these workers. It is known that less advantaged groups in the labor market experience much larger increases in unemployment rates during recessions. But don't let this present you with a false sense of security, because back in 2008, financial advisors were seen to grow extinct. And in today's economy, we will likely see a decline in major transportation crew members. So why I picked this topic? I've lived through 2 recessions without even knowing they existed, and I want to look deeper into this with the effects on the labor force. Also, many of us are about to graduate, me included, and this coronavirus has impacted so many different areas of everyone's lives. Why is this interesting? The first years after entering the labor market are typically a very productive period for young workers. I remember being a kid and listening to the stories my grandmother would tell me about how she survived through the Great Depression, how she talked about working at Campbell's factory in Camden during the time, but she wanted to become a nurse. The point of this is to see the effect of a recession on the younger generation who is trying to enter the labor force. So one must ask the question, how has this pandemic affected my education and my ability to work? This table here shows the effects of initial unemployment rates on an annual earnings and family income by years of schooling. The results are quite similar with the exception of those with master's degrees. Initially, the effects on log earnings after the first 3 years in the labor market hurt those without completing high school the most, but will level out in due time. The household income decreases a ton for the major graduates after 3 years because their salary is greatly affected by the unemployment rate. Older folks who were going to retire are now staying longer than expected because their retirement plan is all screwed up. Log hour wage is affected throughout the whole 10 years for all schooling, as many people are willing to take pay cuts in order to find any type of work. Log weeks work will be high in the first 3 years, but will decline as time goes by. The 3-point estimates of standard errors for 5 experience groups are shown. For a 3-point rise in the unemployment rate, the point estimates in the table suggest an initial reduction of earnings by approximately 11%. The effect only slowly declines with time in the labor market gaining experience. The Swanson and von Wachter found that all labor market entrants experienced persistent reductions in earnings, employment, and wages from entering the labor force in a recession that lasted about 10 years. The authors estimate that a person hired during a moderate recession could lose as much as 60% of the year's earnings over the first 10 years in the labor market. This will hurt them in the long run because these initial wages will be the standard wage in which they will receive a pay raise from. We can see these to be true here in Chapter 9. Both sexes' earning curves are very steep during their younger years of their lives, and the high school dropouts were especially vulnerable to recessions. They had much larger initial drops in wages and hours worked, and recessions had a much more persistent effect on their long-term earnings. In conclusion, the issue of adverse consequences from entering the labor force market during a recession is one that is relevant to all demographic groups. We confirm that all labor market entrants experience persistent reductions in earnings, employment, and wages from entering the labor market in a recession that lasts at least 10 years. A policy that would be made is one that can help sustain the wages of these newer workforce participants by subsidizing them a portion of their lost income. This money will be funded through federal taxes. Thank you.